Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share with you that I'm an advisor for Modern Football Technology, and I truly believe in what we're doing. This is a game changer for high school coaches. It gives you real-time analytics during the game, helping you make faster, smarter decisions that put your team in the best position to win. It's about clarity in the moment, not hindsight on Saturday mornings. I urge you to check it out. You won't be disappointed. Now, let's get into today's conversation, because having the right technology is only part of the equation. To really take advantage of tools like Modern Football Technology, you need a support staff that can help you execute. Whether it's analysts, student assistants, or volunteers, building a support staff with defined roles and responsibilities can transform the way you coach. Today's episode is all about how to build that team behind the scenes so you can be more efficient, more informed, and ultimately more effective on game day. Let's get into it.
When you can build a team like that, it takes a lot off your plate in terms of, we already have to do enough as coaches in terms of preparation for a game every given week.
These are big time roles for us, and I their parents come to the banquets, and I tell them we would be lost without your son.
Part of the benefit was that it was difficult for a football person to do this because they had to focus so much on this task, but you didn't really need football knowledge or not that much football knowledge to do it. She'll tell you she barely knew the difference between a field goal and an extra point 2 years ago.
I saw a manager with a water bottle that didn't look like she was giving nobody no water. So I had this epiphany. I said, hey, these kids nowadays, they can do anything on their phone. They can Snapchat, they can photo, they can Twitter. Well, if they can do that, why can't they listen and type in some numbers?
Game day demands split-second decisions. Can you keep up? Today's technology offers real-time analytics for smarter calls, but who handles the workflow? On today's episode, you'll discover how Modern Football Technology's simple interface lets anyone deliver focused insights, freeing the coaching staff to shine. Trevor Hudson reveals his epiphany for practice and game success. Keegan Wirtz's bold volunteer solution delivers timely data. Patrick Walsh transforms students into indispensable staff, and Mark Solis unlocks practical secrets to build your support team. Whatever limitations you face, this episode arms you to win with tech this season. Modern Football Technology is a game-changing tool delivering real-time analytics to win games, and even students can run it. Trevor Hudson, head coach of the 2024 CIF 5A State Champions at American Canyon High School, trusted his student assistants to wield this power, fueling a historic 583 yards of offense in the title game. His story proves you don't need experts to dominate with tech. Start with students and see results now. Coach, you guys got a powerful tool in Modern Football Technology, and you had to find a way to make sure that you were using it in-game effectively. And your answer was to use student assistants. Talk to us a little bit about that decision.
The reason the student assistance came into play is because we wanted to maximize the use of the application. We couldn't just use it on Friday night because we wanted to be prepared on Friday night. So we wanted to use it in practice. Well, the problem was you had a coach running around in practice with a tablet in his hand, and he couldn't really get into coaching because he was trying to coach while listening and do his other good things. So it gave us this kind of perfect conundrum. So I looked over and I saw a manager with a water bottle that didn't look like she was giving nobody no water. So I had this epiphany. I said, hey, these kids nowadays, they can do anything on their phone. They can Snapchat, they can photo, they can Twitter. Well, if they can do that, why can't they listen and type in some numbers? So I grabbed my manager and I said, hey, I got a very important job for you.
What does the setup look like for you guys on game day?
So on Friday nights, our female manager, she would be, when I would call in play, she would be somewhere in my vicinity, nowhere too far. And if she didn't hear me quite, she would just say, Coach, what was the last one? I would say it again, and she would put it down and she would chart it. Then we have a system So when you come off the field, it's TD time. And so they all my players know we go straight to the TDs to figure out what we did right, what we did wrong on that series. But on my way from the sideline to the TV, my manager is saying, hey, coach, last series, this is what you called. This is what's effective. This was probably the best thing that we ran off the numbers.
What impact did this have on your staff?
So the way it helped us was it took the guesswork out. As an offensive coordinator, when you're trying to get a flow and a call for the game, you have to look at what's working and put pride to the side. To me, what modern football does for me is it allows me to be less prideful and more strategic because the game is changing. I've heard a person tell me either you adapt or die. So this app gives me an opportunity to look at what I need to do, look at what's effective, and tells me where I need to stay in my wheelhouse. And by doing that, it's not like, well, you only call plays that's on the app. No, because I use that to set up the next play. I use that to set up something else. And then when I come back to the play that I set up, it also tells me how effective of a play call I am as far as setting something up. So if I call, and then the play that I think I set up has a low efficiency, then maybe I'm not setting it up the right way. So not only does it give me that in-game feedback, it also gives me that after-game reality check like, hey, man, you probably should have did this a little bit better.
So, Coach, to wrap up, I'm sure there's somebody sitting out there saying, there's no way I would trust a student to run my game day technology. What would you say to them?
583 yards, 68 points, most in the high school state championship history in the state of California, and we threw the ball twice. Don't listen to me. Listen to the numbers. So the proof is in the pudding, basically what I'm trying to say.
You just heard how Trevor Hudson's students powered a 583 yards of offense championship, proving kids can run game-changing technology. Do you need more proof? Volunteers maximize your program? In this segment, Keegan Wirtz, the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin's 2024 2A runner-up at West De Pere, takes it further, tapping a non-football volunteer to master analytics and lighten his load. His story shows anyone can step up and transform your adjustments in-game with technology. So you guys looked outside of your coaching staff, kind of thought outside the box a little bit to add some support to what you're doing. I guess what prompted this, though? What was the thing where you realized you needed some help?
I got a booth guy, and my booth guy's kind of done some of the tracking of what does the other team do, but for this past year, for the first time, we had an actual analytics program. So it does a ton of stuff. Modern Football is who we got it through. It's really good. It tracks everything you could think of. It'll track it. And, we tried doing it, and I went through with my assistant coach, my booth guy, and we had a problem of he watched the game and was watching his position, and he couldn't coach, he couldn't watch his position and then have to tag all this stuff. And it's a lot of stuff that's going on. You go against tempo offenses, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in a very short period of time. And what I found is he just couldn't do it. I couldn't give him 17 different roles. So I'm sitting here talking to my wife about it, and she, I think maybe jokingly says, why don't I just try it out? And she's like, I don't like football. I don't care about what's going on in the play, but I can do a job if you teach me how to do a job. So, we tried it out, and we went through and we pulled up the huddle clips, and we were sitting in our living room one night, and I have the program up, and I'm going through the clips, and we're practicing going through it, and she just boom, yeah, this is easy, boom, 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 click, 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 and I'm thinking, okay, well maybe we have something here. And then so when we actually got into it, I found that it was not only was it good to use a non-football member, but it was like part of the benefit was that it was difficult for a football person to do this because they had to focus so much on this task. But you didn't really need football knowledge, or not that much football knowledge, to do it. She'll tell you she barely knew the difference between a field goal and an extra point 2 years ago. So right. It doesn't take that much knowledge, and it was a great success for us this past year.
So let's talk a little bit about the modern football technology and what you guys are doing with it and why this is such an important role for her.
What we track is, from our perspective, we got our front call, we got a stunt or blitz every play, and then we got the coverage. So I'm calling three things, and she goes click, 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 and it's like a very simple interface. For the other side, we track a lot of things, and what we as we built throughout the year, we figured out more and more what we could do. So the very first game, we started very simple. As we went through, we actually started to get more specific. And I had a coach that his one job pre-snap was just to look at the formation in the backfield. So if she missed the formation in the backfield, he would whisper, hey, here's formation, here's backfield. So that was something that he could do simply. And that was like something we had, as we went through the process, we figured it out. But in addition to that, we're tagging offensive strength. We're tagging location of the ball. We're tagging motion. We're tagging direction. We're tagging the types of play, and we kept that simple, like something that a non-football person can kind of figure. It's run up the middle, it's run outside, quarterback ran the football. Those are the three things that we mostly stuck to because that's really what's most useful for me. Like, where are we getting hurt? And then for pass, it was drop back pass, sprint out pass, screen. Those are the kind of things. Oh, and sorry, an RPO. And we just, anything that's the ball down in the stomach and the quarterback pulls it out, we called it RPO because it's pretty simple. So, we started off simple. We worked our way into it more, but she's tracking like 15 different things all here at the same time. The other thing you got to know is our offense is no huddle. So we got about a minute and a half on the sideline between drives where we got to figure stuff out quick. And what I can do is I can see the stuff, and we're making adjustments in between because there's a lot of charts. There's a ton of information where I had a couple things that I could do. And the first bit of time, I focused more on me and what we were calling and what was working there. Because as the play caller, that's the information I'm using. Like, this is working for me, and this is what we need to do in this next time. Okay? And then she would tell me some simple things. Like, one thing for sure is possession intent. That's right there, boom. So we're going to the next drive. She's got a headset, I got a headset, and I go, okay, hey, what's our P and 10? And she's going, here's our P and 10. Okay, that's something that's very simple, and we went right away. And then we started going further into it, and we're going, okay, here's our last 3 third and mediums, and this is what we've seen here. So that's kind of one of the things we've progressed to, of staying simple, staying with what we can get, and then once we figured out what we can do, just keep on building after it. And of course, you got the halftime, and the halftime's great. You got some time there to actually make adjustments, but we were, as we worked through this process, we were making adjustments in a minute and a half.
And to me, this is a lot different than having the sideline replay, because the sideline replay will show you some things. Yeah. It's going to show you what happened and be able to point some things out to your players, but you still have to watch through that in between with whatever time you have left. Now, because you have the data, you can almost pinpoint, like, these are the things we're going to look at and point out on the sideline here to make these adjustments.
Oh, absolutely. And so, like, I know going into the play, I can say, hey, what play did we run this on? Because if you have a 9-play drive, we have in the clip, because we have the sideline too. And now I know exactly what clip I have. I know exactly what I called. I'm not trying to figure it out. We know what happened. We know what the result of the play is. Like, all of that data. Like, if you're watching Huddle during the week, all that data you get, I've got it right now in the middle of the game as I'm watching it. So it's made everything much more smooth. We're doing things faster.
Now, that we're talking like in-game, in between series adjustments.
Correct. For
halftime, what does this look like for you guys? Because obviously now you're carrying a whole half of data right into the locker room and really knowing some things right away. Before we get in there, kids all get in, they're doing whatever they got to do. Coaching staff, we meet real quick, and we're meeting on the walk into the locker room and whatever. And I'm pulling up what has been working, what's not working. And here we ran this 7 times, and we're 85% efficient. That's what we got going on. And the kids know that we have this. So we'll go into halftime and we'll say, hey, this is what's working right now. This is what we've seen. And I think the kids really appreciate it. And then I've always found that I like to have 1 or 2 calls that, everybody believes in. We're running this and it's going to work. So you also can reinforce that of, hey, this call that we love, it's working. And it also gets buy-in from the kids. And then now maybe I saw this is where we're getting hurt, so maybe we're not going to call that anymore because this is what we're getting hurt on. Or this is where they're hurting us, so this is what I need to, if I got 1 or 2 plays that we're going to fix, I already know that, hey, quarterback run game is what's hurting us. Here's where we're going to work it up. We're going to draw it up on the whiteboard. We're going to talk through it so everybody's on the same page at halftime. Well, I love the story you shared. I think the takeaway from this, I'm not sure that every coach is going to get his wife to do what your wife is doing, but congratulations on that. I think that might be a first in football. But the point being that you don't need a football coach to add some of these things to what you're doing. And I think that's where it's been a stumbling block for a lot of coaches. Like, yeah, I want to add this technology, but I have no idea how we're going to get it done. And well, the answer is actually outside your staff with people who are just willing to help you, whether that be students or, if you're able to do it, your wife.
Yeah, she's really excited. She, with our end of the year meeting, she's hired back for next year, so she's pretty pumped about it.
Trevor Hudson and Keegan Wirtz showed students and volunteers can master game-changing tech to win. Now, Patrick Walsh, Serra High School's winningest coach, with a CIF state title himself, elevates this further. His student assistants aren't just helpers, they're integral staff woven into the heart of the team culture. He explains how he transformed his program by making every student assistant involved a vital part of the mission. I'm here with Coach Patrick Walsh and talking about student assistants and how they can really expand your staff. This is really an important part of our team, especially as we add all these different functions to them and, breaking outside the traditional things we've thought of student managers, student assistants doing before. And Coach Walsh is doing an excellent job there. So, Coach, great to have you here back on the podcast.
Thanks, Coach. Well, I'm always honored to be here, so thanks for having me.
For you, as this started to break out of the normal mold, what was that like? How did you start to use your student assistants in a different way?
Sure. Well, first, a little history. We're in the West Catholic Athletic League out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we have something called coaching limits, which we're only allowed a certain amount of coaches in up for our entire program. We have 3 programs, 260 kids, freshman, JV, and varsity. But we're limited to 15 coaches for the entire group. And that's a unique thing for us. So therefore, that's created a void for us where we need help. Having a program that we aspire to be great every year with a limited amount of coaches, I had to dip into the student body to actually help us achieve what we needed to achieve. So that's the history of it was kind of born out of necessity. To get really great Sarah Padres who have an aspiration to be involved in football, which obviously is the great American sport, and they just they're not players. So long time ago we created what we call our Meerkat group, and one day we had a couple student managers helping out in equipment, and I looked over at them and there's this little kind of cubby hole over at Serra, and they're just kind of looking around, waiting for a coach to yell at them or waiting for them to get something to do, that sort of thing. And I'm like, they look like little meerkats out on the prairie, just like looking around, like, what do I do? And they hide, they come out. And so anyway, we've created a culture around this meerkat student manager system, and it's become a thing at Serra. As a matter of fact, fast forwarding now, and that was probably a good 20 years ago now. And our first meerkat actually went to the University of Tennessee, and that started the whole thing. He went to Tennessee to be an equipment manager. Didn't move on after college, but that was like, wow, I can get into college, like being a student manager. That was a shock to me even. So just we've built it over time. Fast forward to this year, we now have 8 meerkats who will be assigned 2 positions. They'll be involved in the technological aspect of our program. They're the ones that fly the drones. We have 2 drones now for filming practice. They're the ones that are trained to fly the drones, send them up, send them down, get them into huddles so we can review the film right away. So I mean, this is an exponential thing. I think a lot of coaches that I've talked to, they've asked me how to get more help, and I always tell them, just go to your students. You'll be surprised. For a polo and community service hours or whatever, they're going to want to do anything to help the program.
What I've found is the important part of this group and your Meerkats is that they're just not some group off to the side, that you've really brought them in as part of the team. They're part of your culture.
Absolutely. And actually, I would go a step further. They're part of the staff. And when I do my interviews with them to see if they're qualified to do this, I let them know that they work for me and the coaching staff. They do not work for the players, which is a hard barrier to basically put up. But I want them to know how important they are to the operation. And I tell the team, too, like it is a you will be kicked off the team offense if you have an entitled attitude or you alienate one of our Meerkats. Like it's as bad as, starting a fight or whatever. Like, you do not, under any circumstance, treat a Meerkat any less human being. As a matter of fact, they're elevated in our program to the point where the players know they don't mess around with the Meerkats. And I've actually I went as far as suspending a kid for 2 weeks for basically picking on a Meerkat. We do at our team banquet, we honor the Meerkats. If we win a championship, they get rings, like the whole deal. So I see them more as an extension of the coaching staff.
You mentioned that you're going to interview them. You're going to do it like you just would a coach. What's the process for you to be able to get these student assistants into your program?
They sit down with myself and Coach Vignal. We talk through it. We ask them questions. We basically do an interview with them. Like, why do you feel like you should be a Meerkat at Serra? What are your aspirations? Do you have any aspirations of helping college football program beyond? We can help you with all this, and then all that magic starts happening. Because they have seen that we send kids to Arizona, we've sent kids to Tennessee, we've sent kids to Arizona State. We have guys that are on full scholarships all across the country now, and we celebrate those guys on a board at Serra as if they were going to play quarterback at Oklahoma State or whatever. On the front end, a little bit of training, clear and delineated role assignments for each and every one of them. These are big-time roles for us, and their parents come to the banquets, and I tell them, we would be lost without your son. And we give a top Meerkat award of the year every single year. We call him the top cat.
And looking at this whole process and to kind of summarize some things for coaches, for a coach who's looking to use student assistants, in this way, expanded roles for the first time, what are a few tips you would give them to get started and get this off to the right start?
I would say it starts with feeling the pain points of everyone's high school organization. Where's the pain points? Where do you feel like you need help as a coach? Start there. And then identifying the individuals that can help, which the students, and then giving them a defined role on what their role is as a student manager or a Meerkat. We call them Meerkats too because it goes beyond student managing and just, like you said in the beginning, just an equipment guy or someone handing out water. Pain, where's the pain? Where do you need help? Identify the individuals through a cultural build and then give them assigned and delineated roles.
Patrick Walsh's student assistants shape Serra's winning culture, proving their value as true staff. If you're ready to build your own support team, Mark Solis, offensive coordinator at Hilliard Darby in Ohio, shares practical tips to get it done. From course credits to clear roles, his steps show you how to assemble a student support staff that streamlines your program and boosts your team's success. In our series on maximizing your staff, using the resources that you have in your school, we're joined by Mark Solis. And Mark joined us back when he was a head coach at Olentangy in Ohio and shared this idea at the time about how he built an ops team within his school. So we're going to go back to the origin of that story, talk to Mark a little bit about some of the things he's learned and give you some tips on how you can put together your own staff.
We're into our third year of implementing this system of bringing kids within the building into helping us accomplish and really play a big role in that preparation piece throughout the week, but also on game night and getting things set up.
Yeah, I think what's interesting in this is we've become a very tech-driven sport. There's a lot we're allowed to do in game now. It started with the sideline replay, now the utilization of drones for a much better view. Diving into things like in-game analytics and real-time analytics, being able to see exactly what's happening within a game instead of waiting until Saturday morning to break it down. And the thing I hear constantly from coaches is just this concern that, I don't think we have the staff to do that. And I always tell them about your story. And that's why I wanted to share this here again, because the things we're talking about here, these aren't just kids who, we used to just kids would get the equipment out, they'd fill up the water bottles, and that was their role.
Right.
But now we see, and I know you have stories, we'll get into it later, these kids are going on, they're earning scholarships to colleges, they're going on and having careers within something that they're getting experience in right now. So there's so much to this, but the original thought. I would love for you to share just how this came about and what sparked that idea for you to put together a team of student assistants to help your coaching staff.
Yeah, it started out of need and just finding ways to work more efficiently. To your point, as you mentioned earlier, technology lends us the opportunity to work more efficiently. So we were looking for, the resources are there in your building. You have students that want to do these kind of things, and our platform offers them the experience that they see as a possible career down the road. We had one young man, for example, who ended up his last 2 years in college. He was the lead camera video coordinator for all the students at Ohio State. He got to go to the Rose Bowl the one year. That was his senior year. And he led, he was the main film guy for the whole team. And so when you lend those kind of opportunities, a lot of kids see the opportunity also for them down the road. And this lends them an experience. It lends them the opportunity to build their resume, so to speak. What we did is we got real creative in how to recruit kids in wanting to do this. And so just like anything, there's no monies we can pay. There isn't like a stipend for this. So you got to get a little creative and outside the box. So I went to our administration and said, hey, I have this idea of building a team. Can we get them a phys ed credit for this? And that's how this thing started. And so by offering that credit to them, then you give them gear, right? And then the opportunity to have this experience that then I can speak to as a reference down the road. I think it's a win-win-win for the kid. And lots of different kids stepped up to the plate. And what ended up happening, it ended up being a situation where it was really good, where I had to actually pick people. They actually had to apply, and I interviewed them because I found the ideal team was between 6 to 7 kids that would help us during the week in filming during practice, and then certainly setting up everything up on the sideline on game night, from getting our headsets set to our huddle sideline to all the camera systems to make sure everything was in lock and step. And boy, I tell you what, when you can build a team like that, it takes a lot off your plate in terms of, we already have to do enough as coaches in terms of preparation for a game every given week. To be able to have a team, to be able to do that of young people, they have ownership in what you're doing. And listen, they instantly gained credibility and legitimacy within our players, because the players saw the need to have this, but the players saw how it helped them in game and after the game when we would watch film.
Yeah, I think there's a ton to unpack there. And certainly you're somebody who's been doing this for years now. After you've selected those and brought those kids into the program, what do you recommend as the onboarding process? How do you get them ready to do their jobs?
I wanted a lead guy or a lead gal, so to speak, like that person that was really good from a technical aspect. We would have to show them, okay, this is how you load film into Huddle. This is how it needs to be intercut. This is the process. It didn't take long for kids. Some of these kids are so good at this. They're showing you a better way to do it. I always wanted to make sure I had diversity within the group from a grade standpoint. So, for example, I wanted on the team a couple sophomores, a couple juniors, a couple of seniors. I put the seniors in charge of recruiting freshmen.
Yeah, I think getting the kids the credit, getting them hooked in school is just a smart thing. You mentioned having those senior leads. What did it look like as far as the structure of the staff? Did they each work a little bit on everything?
Yes, my lead person, I always, he or she had to know how to do everything. And their role was to make sure that everybody knew how to do everything. I would say it was about finding what each kid on the team did really well. For example, one person loved to make sure that they were in full control of our portable generator, right? That's huge, because sometimes we went to places where there wasn't an outlet. These kids got so good at it, I never had to worry about anything on game night. I knew at kickoff, everything was set up, 2 or 3 members of the team on the sideline holding iPads. So when I said, hey, I need to see an iPad, they were standing right by me and they would hand it right to me. And it's about clear communication, clear expectations, and also defining roles very clearly.
For a coach who's listening to this, what would you recommend as a starting point for them?
I think you want to identify, what are you trying to get out of it? Like, what is it that exactly is going to help your program? Where is your need? Finding what you're really trying to get out of this is first and foremost. And from there, communicating in a very clearly way of what is there to offer kids, and making sure that your administration is supportive of this, because you can't pay these kids money. What are they going to get out of it? Well, let's get the administration on board and giving them credit and those kind of things. It's just like anything you do for the first time. It'll be like, trial by error. Like you're going to do some good things. You're going to do some bad things. Learning what works, what doesn't work can help you continue to build. And then just making sure you have a system in which you're going to continue to recruit kids into the program. And that's the art of delegation. And along the way, they stub their toe, they make a mistake. Let's get it corrected in a professional way and move on.
Our 4 coaches today proved that student assistance and modern football technology win games and save time. From championship titles to streamlined practices, their stories show what's possible when you empower students with cutting-edge tools. Don't let your program fall behind. Visit teammofo.com today to explore modern football technology's game-changing analytics. Book a demo now and start building your winning support staff.